accident. Okay, Jesus, yay! Now, when I put the Jesus model together, we've got a social model which says it's your fault, a medical model says it's my fault, and the Jesus model says it's no one's fault. Calm down, people. Let's just, work with this. And I put the slides together with the Jesus model of ministry about how we minister to each other generally. If you get it right for disabled people, you get it right for everybody. So modelling a good way of ministering to disabled people is a good way of modelling ministry anyway. So there's that whole caveat. But then I also have a few issues with Jesus as well, so which only came to light as I was thinking about it after I did the talk. So I'll go with the good bit, and then I'll throw my questions at you to go, So this is how Jesus approaches people who are impaired or disabled or whatever language you want to use, okay? He was accessible and went to where the people were. So he didn't hold a healing service in an inaccessible building you couldn't get to that's got steps and a lift around the back by the bins. He went to them. He found himself in places where they already were. In the marketplace, by the lake, in their homes, the street, on the hillside, by the harbour. 25 of the 34 miracles involved Jesus and disabled people. It's great, isn't it? Look at us, yay! We're out there, And he gave them time and space and dignity. So the man born deaf and mute, who I imagine was bewildered by the crowds, all yelping and screaming for this wonderful miracle, Jesus gets hold of him and takes him off to one side away from the crowds, very quietly, and spends a little bit of time with him, and then does the thing that the Bible Greek says healing, but I think is probably cure. I'll tell you why in a minute. Two different things. So there is something about dignity and space and time, and the person being the focus of the thing, not the crowds. Which is why I am cautious around healing services. Number one, what do we expect is going to happen when people walk out the door again, or roll out the door, or not roll out the door because they rolled in and they can walk out. Number two, it feels a little bit like we're on show. That could be my own background. I went to a healing service when I was 14, 15 to the daughter church, the parish I went to, because I went to the youth group there, and I thought, I know the building, it's great, and I want to go and see what healing services are. This was when I was 14, so that's 1988, maybe? Yeah, could be. And I went to a few, and I was fascinated by the whole thing, really fascinated by it. And I love the atmosphere, I love the prayerful nature, I love the worship. And on my third occasion, I hadn't gone up for prayer, I just wanted to watch and observe and just work it out. A lovely, well-meaning idiot came up to me, and said, I don't know why you keep coming. I'm 14, remember, got myself there, got myself back again. You're not a very good advert for a healing service, are you?
But there is that kind of guilt.
Bless you.
If you weren't healed, it must be your fault.
It must be your fault.
So I was still depressed. And
yeah. What have you done wrong in your life to still be your fault? And Jesus never says to any of them, you know why we're here, don't you? It's entirely your fault. You're not a good advert for my messiahship, are you? He doesn't say that. He gives them dignity and space. He listened and did not assume. So blind Bartimaeus, when you get to heaven and find Bartimaeus, don't go, oh, you're blind Bartimaeus, aren't you? Yeah, he's not called blind anymore, he can see. He's just called Bartimaeus. Fascinating. Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, meets the son of David. The two sons come together and they have an interaction. A little interplay there. And Jesus says, what can I do for you? And the crowd are going, he's blind. Start of a 10, he's blind. Am I missing something here? He's blind. Jesus says, what is it I can do for you? And interestingly enough, he says, I'd like to be able to see again. He once could see, and then he lost his sight, and he misses the thing he used to have. He knows what he's lost. He can make a decision about this. And he says, in the light of what I've lost and what I now experience, I would like back what I've lost. I will go and find your sight for you, says Jesus, and I will bring you back the thing that you've lost. You can see again. And the centurion who asked for help, Jesus said, what can I do for you? The crowd are going, he's the enemy, nothing. And Jesus says, what can I do for you? You want me to come and heal your servant? No problem at all. Off you go, he's healed. And the crowd would have said no. Jesus says, what can I do for you? And Jesus thought about their faith and their relationship before the magic hand stuff. How is it going? Is it well with your soul? And then, by the way, do your legs work? So, and I'm still pondering this one, the man lowered down through the roof. Never mind the indignity and did he have any agency? That's a whole other question I'm going to ask Luke, the writer of this bit, to go, did the man have a name, Luke, by any chance? Did he have a name? Did you bother to actually find out who the man was? Never mind. So he's lowered down through the roof, there's no dignity, he's lowered down, and Jesus looks at him and says, your sins are forgiven. Relationship with God comes first. If I was filming this as a Hollywood thing, I'd have Jesus go, right, we're done here, lads, it's all yours. They begin to put it back up again, everyone going, what? And the friends going, is that it? That's not what we came for. And the crowd going, how dare he? By whose authority does he do this? Jesus going, hold on, bring him back. Bring him back. On the basis of an authority challenge, I will therefore cure you. Get up and walk. The only reason I've done this, mate, is because they challenged my authority. But the walking bit was never part of my initial plan. Relationship was it. Walking, a side issue. Healing, relationship. Cure, get up and walk. Authority being the catalyst for the second part, which wouldn't have happened, I don't think, without the challenge. How dare he do that? Who can forgive sins? All right, I'll prove it. You can get up and walk. If they'd not challenged his authority, would he have done part 2 on getting the man to get up and walk home? When I get to heaven, on my list of things to ask Jesus, but I shan't care about when I get there, I'll be like, so would you have done that if he... This is the Jesus model of ministry. Go to where the people are and give them space and don't assume and listen and talk about relationship with God as the most important thing in life. Not the, was it Kierkegaard who said it's all about the spirits and the body can go hang, it's about the spiritual connection. Not like that, not a separation way, because we're not going to go all Greek here, but in about my relationship with God is key. Everything else is secondary. Might not feel like that, but it is. When I get to heaven, it's the relationship that will be there and the rest of me will follow. I'm not quite sure how that bodily resurrection happens and where I go in the meantime. Lots of theology about that, but no certainty. What I do know is my heart arrives in heaven and it finds its home. And I want to get that bit right in the meantime. Healing and cure. There is this assumption when we have healing services or prayers for healing, disabled people are starting to get twitchy about this and avoid them like the plague. When I go to New Wine events and other conferences are available, and I spot the green lanyards that says pastoral ministry, and I think, oh crumbs, I better not leave the loo in the middle of this, because I can guarantee if I think, actually another worship song, I might nip to the loo while they're singing Blessed Be the Name of the Lord for the 3rd time, and I'll just start to move out and the pastoral ministry team come, oh, can I pray for you? No, I need a wee. No, but can I pray for you? That little head tilt thing, oh, can I pray for you? Can I pray for you? You're going to fall over, love, stand up. No, I need the toilet. I'm an easy target, I know, but okay, fine, yes, you can pray that I don't wet myself. You can pray for, no, I can't pray, I feel, the Lord's telling me, oh, is he, really? The Lord's telling you, go on. What revelation am I going to get now? The Lord is telling me that you need release from your disability. Do I? No, that's not high on my list of things. I need prayer for my belligerence, my sarcasm, my cynicism, the fact that I've got a really short fuse, which comes out far too often, and a dog collar is not a good combination with that. I need prayer for my finances because they're really tight at the moment because I don't have a job. I need prayer for, and at the time my husband had no kidneys. That wasn't, just for a laugh. That was by surgeons. So, and I need prayer for this too, and my little boy, and they're like, no. The Lord has laid it on my heart. You need prayer for... Good. Well, I'm really pleased for you. By the way, I still need the toilet. And when I let people do the thing they want to do, and sometimes I just say yes, because you need to pray for me, that's fine. I don't need this, but you need to do it, so I'll let you do it. And they pray this wonderful, theologically brilliant prayer of not being disabled anymore. And then they go, that awful question, how do you feel? Still desperate for a wee. And I feel the same, but how do you feel? And they're like, what do you mean, how do I feel? I prayed for you. Yeah, but do you feel better for it? That's not a good question to ask, because what they want is to see me leap up from my chair and go, I don't need the crutches anymore. I did it once just for a laugh. I leapt up and went, and threw my crutches and went, ta-da! And they went, oh, it's the miracle. I went, I'm just kidding, seriously. That was a little bit cruel. That's right, because someone get my crutches. I throw a long way, don't I? I really do. It's a long throw. And I mean, it was a bit cruel because their face was like, oh, you've ruined my theology of healing. Well, maybe it needed ruining, because there's a difference in healing, which is being right with God, and cure, which is something about me that didn't work, now does. And when we pray for healing, let's not confuse ourselves or the recipient of prayer by mixing up healing and cure. A lovely Anglican priest in North America who's got CP like me, yay, we're everywhere. She writes, I learned long ago that healing of my disability was not what I needed or even wanted. Rather, I often needed healing from the negative attitudes and responses of others, and like most of us, needed healing from the hurts that life may bring to any of us. The meaning of healing extends far beyond the symbolic act of curing the sickness. The power of healing confronts the powers that oppress us and witnesses to the presence of God's power at work in the world. To heal the world so it becomes a heartbeat with God's heartbeat, it's far more important than me walking without crutches. I'm getting the hang of them. So healing and cure. The 10 lepers, 9 go off to show themselves to the priest, who stood behind them going, I'm here, never mind, missed it. 1 comes back, he is cured of leprosy, and he comes back and worships and receives a healing in relationship. The woman bent double in the synagogue. I love this encounter. I'd act it out, but I can't get off the floor if I get down there. So Jesus sits down to teach. They're all sat down. The women are stood at the back. They're not allowed to come and sit with the men, because that would be equality, obviously, and who wants that? And she is in the doorway listening in. She can't stand with the women. She can't sit with the men. She can't stand up straight. She's bent over. She's looking at her feet all day. She knows your feet like there's no tomorrow, but she can't remember what your face looks like. She's been looking at the floor the whole of her life. And Jesus calls her forward, past the stood women, past the sat men, all the way through to where he is, and he looks her in the eye. The first person to meet her eye to eye. He sat down lower than she is, and he looks up into her face and gives her dignity and agency. He takes her by the hand and says, daughter of Abraham, you belong. Horror. How dare he call her a daughter of Abraham? How dare he? Now up you get. And she stands tall in his presence. Cure and healing. She is part of that to which she belongs. Man through the roof, we've done him already. Agency is massively important. The fact that people didn't get names, because the gospel writers don't bother naming them, unless it suits their theological moment. Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus. Jesus, son of David. Nice little nuance there, we'll include that. But the rest don't get any names. And being no named is huge. The disabled, the elderly, the infirm, the others who are not like us. Push them to one side, generic category of people. There's no identity there. So again, when we're ministering to and amongst, names and identity are huge. I am one of the disabled, but I'm really Katie with cerebral palsy and loads of other stuff too that it's just too boring to go into. So disability is an integral part of who I am. It's not the whole of who I am. There's lots more nuances. But let no one ever have conversations, well, we talk about, well, how can we get the disabled into church? The disabled? Should we just name a few? No one is the anything. And it does my head in when people refer to the category of people. I asked some disabled people about church experience, both people who are part of churches and who were part of churches and who will never be part of church ever again. Different aspects. Because Stephen Horst, anyway, he's got a great surname. He says contemporary disability discourses tend to render people with disabilities as objects of recognition. So we've been talking about disabled people as though they are out there somewhere, but I want to bring some of their voices in here because there's only me and I'm just me. I am not the disabled community, I'm only part of it. So some of their voices. I said to them, what does it mean to be made in God's image? And do you experience the fullness of that in church? Fearfully and wonderfully made. Made in God's image. Oh, yes, sir. God must have a goofy sense of humour. So prayer ministry doesn't have to involve standing up to work. Let's all stand together and pray to the... Really? Do we have to... Being told to stand, being told come forward with prayer and we will stand and lay hands on you. Can we sit? Can we lie? Or does the Holy Spirit only work in the first 10 feet and if you're stood on your own feet as well? Don't assume anything. Don't project your fears onto what you perceive of me. My little boy is crackingly good on disability theology and acceptance. And there's been a series of trailers on the BBC TV channel about difference, and they're following different children who've got disabilities. And one girl, she's got a problem with her eye, so it pokes out quite a long way. And she's wondering whether to have any kind of surgery on it or just to live with it, because she's got the hang of it now, seeing out of this big eye and a normal eye. And my little boy kind of went, why have they done that to her? I went, what do you want? He said, no, they put a thing on her face to make it look like she's got a big eye. And I went, no, love, that's real. And he went, oh, I don't think I like it. And I went, fair enough. I shan't tell him not to, because that's imposing my everyone's fine attitude on him. And if I tell him to mask that, then that's not going to help him deal with that feeling of, I don't like what I see. So I said to him, that's fine. It's okay not to like it, but if you ever meet her, don't say, don't like your face very much. I said, you're going to have to get over that yourself and work it out. So some people say to mummy that they don't like mummy on crutches. And he went, why not? I said, for the same reason inside that you reacted to that girl with the big eye. And he went, oh, he's only 8, bless him, he'll get there. But projecting our fears, I'd hate to be like you, so I'm going to pray that I'm not. Pray for you that you stop being, so that I never have to be. That's not good theology. I don't need fixing to be a better Christian. I mean, I do need fixing to be a better Christian, but there's a lot of things that need fixing first. I don't need to be walking on 2 legs to be a better disciple. There are many other things that need fixing before that. And having CP is not a sign of not enough faith. I have been through the many years angst of, if I had more faith, Lord, I'd be so much better and I'd be healed. And God going, that's not how it works. I've been in churches where that's been a big theology. My friend says, don't pray I'll stop being autistic. I'm autistic, and that is who I am. And if you can't deal with that, then that is your problem and not mine. That whole thing about hope and wholeness. There's a beautiful painting, bottom middle, of the Last Supper, and the artist has used people with Down syndrome for all the different characters and people. And it's really funny. I saw it and went, that's amazing. My friend's got Downs went, yeah, there's me in there. And I went, what are you on about? He went, they've all got Downs. I went, have they? I looked again and went, oh yeah, so they have. He's like, how did you not see they're all Down syndrome? And I went, I don't know, I just didn't see it. I just saw a beautiful painting. And he went, but I'm at that table. The artist put me in that table. I'm a disciple of Jesus, which I thought was beautiful. When Jesus is in heaven, Jesus is in heaven now with scars. He is a right royal mess. You're going to arrive and go, look at the state of you. You've been in a fight. Oh, yeah. No, sorry. Yes, you have been in a fight, haven't you? Yeah. Because he was so scarred on the road to Emmaus. Yes, they're walking into the sunset, so they're a little bit like this. But he was so battered and bruised. I imagine they took one look and went, who's this thug we're going to walk along with? Let's just be polite and not tell him too much. He might mug us. He was properly beaten by the Roman soldiers. They didn't leave any bit of him unscarred. And he sits, the slain lamb, at the right hand of the Father. Now my autistic friend went, that's disgusting. What? Well, this bloody lamb on someone's hand like this. I'm like, not literally. Remember, darling, it's figurative. Okay, yeah, figurative, right, fine. I love her, she's great, but everything's literal. In heaven, Jesus is battered and bruised and scarred, which means I can turn up my scars from surgery and go, oh, matching, look at this, I got one of those as well. Not quite the same as yours, love, but crucifixion and all that. When you've prayed for my healing and you say, do you feel better? Don't look sad when I go, not really. And your briefly thought out theology of healing doesn't outweigh my lived, lengthy experience of disability. You've got a snap thing about healing and theology, great, but I've been living that for a long time. And not to say I've got it right, but that doesn't mean you have either. If I say no thank you for your offer of prayer, don't be upset. Just go, fair enough, and walk away. These are good things for any kind of pastoral ministry, but heightened by disability. And be careful with language as analogy. We pray for politicians who are blind to the needs of the poor and deaf to their voices. No, those are medical conditions. You're discussing sin. Don't equate the two. Being blind to something is not the same as willfully ignoring injustice. Don't use blindness as an excuse to brush over sin. I'd like to pray for you. How can I pray? You can't. Push off. Okay, fair enough. I did have one person who said, no, I'm fine, thank you. And they sidled away by 10 feet and then started looking at me outside their eyes and then muttering under their breath. And I'm like, stop praying for me. I told you no. Literally, have some agency here. And they're like, no, I'm not praying for you. I'm like, just stop it. I said, no, thank you. If you're going to pray for me anyway, go where I can't see you and pray to your Heavenly Father in secret, rather than muttering under your breath prayers that I should be able to hear, but I can't. There's no agency there. And there's this final bit, and I'm very aware we are tight on time, about being the object of ministry. Because every Church of England document you read about disability is about ministry done to. The deaf church, I'm about to become, it's a snappy title, are you ready? Deep breath. The disability advisor, I can do that bit, and lead chaplain amongst the deaf. Hang on, they changed the wording. Lead chaplain amongst deaf people for the Oxford Diocese, which is still slightly the charity model of chaplaining the deaf people rather than they can chaplain themselves because they're all more than capable. But being the lead chaplain, I'm not deaf. I mean, sometimes I, don't listen, but I'm not deaf. I can't sign it well enough yet, but I'm getting there. I would much rather that deaf people were their own chaplains because it's a lot quicker, for starters, than training up some monkey like me to learn sign language and going, oh, the charity model, I shall come and be your chaplain. How lovely. But there's something about ministry of, not ministry to. Now, within a church setting where we've got very strict layers of who ministers to who, that could get awkward. But I don't want to be ministered to because I'm disabled. I want to be ministered to because I'm a disciple who needs ministry, but offer ministry in return. Which begs the question, am I being done to as a teaching tool, or am I actually a minister in my own right? Hence no dog collar today, you see. Can't wear it anyway, I'm not licensed anywhere. So someone wrote this. This is a Church of England vicar. After many years of struggling with seeming injustice of being a Christian with cerebral palsy, wondering why I wasn't special enough or faithful enough to be healed or cured, I came to the uncomfortable place of knowing that my CP and disability is part of my identity. And my identity is held by God. I know it to be true, but there are some days I simply don't like it. I love this picture. The banner, the Alpha banner, got questions about life. Should read, got questions about how to get in. This is a church in the north. And when it became vacant, my friend who goes there said, you should apply for this. This is a few years ago. I said, no, I've been to that church for a conference. Hey, you'd be really great as the incumbent. Yeah, but how am I going to get in? This is the one where the bins disguise the lift. So you have to go right round the back, and in all weathers it's horrible. And to get to the vicar's vestry, you have to go up another flight of stairs once you ring. The lift didn't go that far, and it's really inaccessible. My question would be, how do you get in? So that's saying we will get you as far as we can as congregant, but forget leadership. The building, the theology and the message of the congregation is, of course everyone's welcome. But the building says, apart from you, you're not really welcome either. And my argument with faculties and theology and churches is to say, if your theology says one thing and your building says the other, which one are you going to change? Because if you can't change the building and won't move out, then for goodness sake, change your theology. And just say, well, you're welcome if you can get in. Just be honest.
At least there's a handrail.
There is a handrail. It's not open stairs. Although the handrail goes up and then round the gate.
Yes.
And then round the pillar and then goes up again. And it's actually really high up, like a child. It's up here. And I'm like, suddenly I've shrunk. I feel like I'm 5 again. This one, if you recognise it, please shout. This one again, it's Victorian. Victorians didn't do disability, and their buildings don't do disability, and that means that theology doesn't. So this church says it's a very welcoming church, it's a very open, accessible church, until the next of kin, who's a wheelchair user, couldn't get anywhere near the coffin, because the coffin's right at the top where the lady in blue and the gentleman in red, on the right hand side, that's where the coffin goes. And you can't get a wheelchair, well you can, in the middle of the aisle, but you can't then get the coffin bearers past the person in the wheelchair, so it's like a bit awkward. So she sat at the back in the wheelchair space. That was hideous. And to get to the altar, there's no nave altar, and they can't put a nave altar in, there's no room for it. You have to go up more steps, and then getting around the back of it, you have to go sideways, like a crab. It's hilarious, it's very dignified. Not saying where that is. This one's better, because at least you've got chairs, although they are held together by long batons. So you have to lift 5 at a time to move them. And I said, let's just take the batons off. Can't do that, health and safety. Nope, still not getting it. And the shallower, so you could probably tip a wheelchair up, but then you jar your back and it would hurt really. But you could put a nave altar in, if there was a will to do it. If your theology says everybody belongs, and your building says apart from these people, then you've got to change one or the other. And if your building says, yep, everyone can come and worship, but only certain people can come and lead, then again, you've got to change what you're going to say. Because if your person who relies on wheels cannot get to the altar where you insist it must be celebrated from, then you've either got to bring the celebration down to where the people are and where the wheels can get to, or say to the person in wheels, you can't celebrate, because we're not moving the holy space from where it is to where it could be. And I know faculties are a complete nightmare, but I bet if you were hosting a confirmation service and the bishop rang that morning to say, I broke my leg and I'm in a plaster cast and I'm in a wheelchair, but I can't physically get into your building, I'll bet you'd move heaven and earth to find a school hall that was accessible where you could still do that. So why not move heaven and earth for the average person who cannot access and lead and minister in your building? Close the doors, go somewhere else. English Heritage can run the building for you as a heritage site. See, I can say it, and now I'm not a vicar, I can say it, I'll say, been saying this things for years. Why do we insist on keeping buildings open that are not symbols and places of belonging? I think I'm nearly at the end. Oh, yes I am. You'd be glad to hear. Oh, I'm slightly over. So I mentioned lovely Grove booklets that I'm selling, and you can go on the Grove website and buy them directly from there if you haven't got one today. But if you have bought one today, thank you very much. If you're listening on the camera, then Grove is, just go and Google Grove, and the booklet's called Worship and Disability, and it's co-authored with Anna Delange, who is now retired reader in Sheffield Diocese, a wonderful lady. It's a booklet, it is a taste of what we're trying to achieve, a quick guide to worshipping spaces, liturgy, movement, how you put a service together, the whole thing for those who want to lead and be led by with disability in mind. A more personal book is written by Disability and Jesus, which is me, Dave and Bill, and Jarvis the guide dog for retired. He put a paw print somewhere, and that is our stories of how we became Disability and Jesus, our own stories of disability and life, our own arguments with God and the church over the years and coming to a reconciliation with God and partly the church, and how we together became what we are now. It's called Part 1, so we're going to write Part 2, but Part 1 was torturous to write in the first place, so you may yet get there. We've also launched something called An Ordinary Office, which is anordinaryoffice.org.uk, and you go to that and you log in with whatever. We don't keep your login details, that's up to you. We can't email back and go, I've forgotten them, tough, you'll have to start again. And on there you'll find yourself in a space where there is morning, midday and evening prayer, and there's Makaton signs, there's a video that's captioned, and there's a very simply written liturgy which hopefully is accessible to those who have learning disabilities as well as those who don't. And we've tried to make it as accessible to anybody who comes onto that site as possible, with people telling us when it hasn't worked and we go straight away and we change it. So we're hoping that it means that wherever you are, you can join in with a church community, even if physically getting there is not going to happen. So we've got vicars who are not necessarily being fed by their own churches, who worship via the ordinary office. They come home, they log on, they know that people, so when you click on the Amen button, it tells you who else is praying at that point, how many people are praying with you at that same time, and how many have been praying since the very beginning of it being launched. We've had something like 700,000 hits since it was launched in July last year. It's huge.
It's lovely too. And
Yeah.
I've used the morning prayer, opening prayer with the our congregation. With
Oh, fabulous. Oh, thank you.
The response from the congregation was tremendous.
None of it's copyright, so just if you can use it, please do. And we invite people to also record stuff at home. So, you know, do your selfie on your camera and record just a thought about life, about Jesus, well, preferably Jesus, would be good. And then you can send it to us, and we will use those. We'll caption it for you, and we'll use it again, so that real people are doing real theological wrestling and discipleship. And we like it. We think it's going really well. And again, there's no money in it. We just have our own pockets, and some people donate to us, which is really cool. So, and the book pays for itself and the software. So we are Displaying Jesus, and that's kind of my main hat that I wear, because that's where I do my main wrestling. The church doesn't necessarily cope with the questions that I wrestle with yet. It will. Oxford will give me a big platform to do it on, whether they like it or not. Disability and Jesus as a community, we wrestle with some of the big questions, and we don't pull any punches. And if people are not comfy with that, that's okay. If they want to shout at us for being rude or abrupt, that's okay too. And we're on Twitter, which is quite cool.
Can I do a quick photo for the Twitter family?
You can.
I was just gonna-
Dave would want to know.
Dave will want to know I've been here and doing this. I forgot to tweet earlier. It was looking for my car keys. I forgot to do anything on social media. Social media is both a blessing and a curse. It can be the place where people can shout at each other and be thoroughly unpleasant. It can be a place where you can suddenly connect and go, oh, you have the same story as I do. Well, how are you doing this? And they can go, oh, this is how I'm doing. Oh, okay. You can discover people who were hidden and didn't belong, who now feel that they belong in a different way, who can belong through an ordinary office on Twitter where they can't belong in a physical space. And our longing is that everyone belongs everywhere. But, it'll take a generation or several to get there. This is me. This is the end of me. This is not the end of me. This is the end of my time with you. That is my new address. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can do. We move there in 10 days' time. It's fine. We're not quite ready yet, but we're nearly there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Disability and Jesus. And that's just a small selection of the books I'm collecting on disability, some of which I read and I want to throw across the room. Some of which I read and I'm challenged by, and I have to read slowly. Some of which are fabulous and I go back to again and again and again. So I offer them to you.